The envelope on the closet shelf hasn't moved in 9 years. It's behind the shoebox with the winter gloves, tucked flat so it doesn't announce itself. And inside it is $1,000 in 20s. You counted once and never counted again. You didn't build it for a reason. You built it because a form at work asked if you had savings, and you didn't like writing the word no. That's the whole origin story. There was no crisis that taught you the lesson first. You just didn't want to answer a question badly, so you fixed it quietly over 4 months, and then forgot the money existed, the way you forget a smoke detector exists, until the one night it matters. You are 23. You make $34,000 a year, answering phones for a company that installs commercial refrigeration. The $1,000 takes 4 months to save, $250 a paycheck, skimmed off the top, before you see the rest of it. Account with a name on it you never bothered to change from the bank's default label, savings too. You don't touch it. Not because you're disciplined. You just don't think about it. The same way you don't think about the insulation in the walls. It's doing something. You don't need to know what. Your roommate Devin doesn't have one. Devin has a nicer car than you, a lease he's proud of, and $0 set aside for anything that isn't already scheduled. In March, his transmission starts making a sound like a dropped wrench in a dryer. The shop quotes $1,650. He doesn't have it, so it goes on a card at 24.9%. And he pays the minimum for 11 months. And by the time it's paid off, he's handed the bank almost $400 in interest, on top of the repair. Money that bought him nothing. No part, no labor, just permission to not have $1,650 in March. You watch this happen from 6 feet away, in the same apartment, and you don't say anything. That doesn't sound like bragging. And the $1,000 in your closet doesn't feel like something you did right. It just feels like something that happened to be there. You are 25. Your car needs brakes. Front and back. $480 at the shop down the street. You pay it from checking, not from the envelope, because $480 doesn't require touching the account with a name you never bothered to fix. That's the quiet rule you've built without writing it down. The fund is not for expected things. Brakes wear out. Everyone knows brakes wear out. The fund is for the thing nobody scheduled. Devin's card is still at $1,100 that year from the transmission, now stacked with $340 from a dentist visit he also couldn't pay for outright. A cracked molar that turned into a root canal he'd been putting off since the pain started, because putting off pain is free and dentists are not. He's not reckless. He has a job, he shows up, he tips fairly, he's a good roommate. Between an unexpected cost and a debt. So every unexpected cost becomes a debt, automatically, the way water finds the low point in a floor without deciding to. You are 27. You move out, get your own place, and the $1,000 moves with you in a bank transfer that takes 4 seconds and means nothing emotionally. It's just a number that follows you. That same year, the company you work for switches refrigeration vendors and lays off 11 people in a Tuesday email, and you are for 6 days not sure if you're one of them. You are not. But for 6 days you do the math on how long $1,000 would last you if you were, and the answer is not long, maybe 3 weeks of rent. And for the first time you understand that the fund was never about being rich. It was about buying yourself 6 calm days instead of 6 panicked ones while you found out. You are 29. The layoff finally reaches you, 18 months late, in a different round, for a different reason. And this time it's real. Tuesday morning, a 15-minute call, a box for your desk items shipped to your apartment 2 days later. You have $1,000 in the fund and $2,200 in checking. And severance gives you 3 more weeks of pay on top of that. And it takes you 5 weeks to find the next job, which means for about 2 weeks, you are living on the fund and the tail of the severance with nothing coming in. You don't enjoy those 2 weeks. Nobody enjoys them. But you make rent. You don't call anyone for money. You don't put anything on a card at 24.9%. The 2 weeks are stressful in a normal, containable human way, instead of the other way, the way where every day past week 2 becomes a countdown to a decision you can't undo. Devin, in the same year, loses hours at his job during a slow season. Not fired, just cut from 40 to 25 for 2 months. And he doesn't have $1,000 anywhere. The 25-hour weeks go straight onto the card that never quite recovered from the transmission. And by the time his hours come back, he's carrying $2,400 at nearly 25%, which is $50 a month in interest alone, before he's paid down a single dollar of what he actually spent the money on. He's not behind because he's bad with money. He's behind because he never had a seam, and every rough month became permanent residence on a balance that compounds against him instead of for him. You are 31. Nothing happens. This is the important year, the one that never makes it into a story. Because for 365 days, the fund does absolutely nothing, and you barely remember it exists. You get a raise, you max out a vacation you've been saving for separately. The $1,000 sits in savings too, earning some trivial interest you never check, doing the single most important job an emergency fund does in most years of most lives. That most years are like this is exactly why people stop keeping one. Nothing happening for years in a row feels like proof it was never necessary. It is not proof of that. It's proof it's working exactly as designed, quietly, the way a fire extinguisher works, by never once being needed until the 1 week it is. You are 33. Your dog needs emergency surgery, a blockage, $1,400, decided in an exam room in about 4 minutes, because the alternative isn't really an alternative. You don't have $1,400 in checking that week. Rent just cleared and payday is 5 days out. You use the fund, all of it, in one transfer, and for the first time in 10 years, the envelope job the closet fund was built for actually happens. On a Tuesday, over a dog, not over the disaster you always pictured when you started it. That's usually how it goes. The thing that finally uses the fund is never the thing you imagined. Rebuild it over the next 5 months. $200 a paycheck this time instead of $250, because your income's better now, and it's back to $1,000 by autumn. And you don't feel proud rebuilding it. You just do it the way you refill a gas tank, without ceremony, because an empty one is a problem you'd rather not discover at a bad moment. Devon's dog, coincidentally, needs the exact same kind of surgery 2 years later, and he puts $1,400 on the same card, still not fully recovered from the hours cut, and now he's carrying almost $3,000 at 25%, and the monthly interest alone, before any principal, is more than what you put into your fund every month to keep it whole. He loves his dog exactly as much as you love yours. That was never the difference. You are 36. You buy a house, modest, 3 bedrooms, an hour from where you grew up, and everyone who helped you through the closing tells you the same thing without coordinating it. Break in ways apartments don't. You already have the $1,000, and you add to it that year without really deciding to. Just because the mortgage makes the stakes of an empty account feel higher than they used to. And by the time you close, the fund is $2,600. Still small, still not impressive at a dinner party, but bigger than it was. The furnace dies in January, 11 months after you move in. $4,200 for a new one. And this is the first time the envelope isn't enough on its own. $2,600 covers a little over half. But half is not nothing. Half means the loan you take out for the rest is $1,600 instead of $4,200. And the interest on $1,600 for 18 months is a fraction of what it would have been on the full amount. The fund doesn't have to cover everything to change everything. It just has to shrink the hole enough that what's left isn't a crisis, just a bill with a maturity date. Devon doesn't buy a house that year, or the year after. He's still renting. Card, now refinanced onto a slightly better rate a coworker told him about. Still carrying a balance that never quite reaches zero, because something always arrives before it does. An alternator, a phone screen, a friend's wedding 3 states away he couldn't skip. None of these are extravagant. That's the part people get wrong about why some people stay in debt. It's rarely the vacations, it's the alternators. You are 40. The market drops that spring, a real one, headlines with the word crash in them. And your job is fine, your income is fine, but the fear in the air is not fine. And for the first time, you understand what the fund is actually for at this stage of life. It's not there to pay for the crisis. It's there so that when everyone around you is making decisions out of fear, you're not. Because you already know your next 90 days are covered, no matter what the number on a screen says that morning. You don't sell anything. You don't panic move money. Dinner. And the fund sits there in the background, doing the one thing it's always done, which is remove one category of fear entirely so the rest of your brain can function normally. Devon, that same spring is laid off for real this time. A full closure, not a slow season. And he has no fund, a $2,800 balance already on the card, and a rent due in 9 days. He borrows from his sister, quietly, The kind of loan that gets repaid but never gets mentioned again. The kind that changes a relationship by half a degree, permanently, in a direction neither of them will ever name out loud. You don't judge him for it. You've just never had to make that call, and the not having to make it is the entire value of the envelope, worth more some years than every dollar that ever sat inside it. You are 45. Your roof needs a full replacement, $9,800. No warning, just a contractor pointing at soft spots. Storm and telling you it's now, not later. The fund is $4,100 by then, built up slowly over years without a plan, just habit compounding on habit. It covers less than half again, same as the furnace, but the same math applies. The loan for the remainder is smaller. The interest is smaller. The whole event is smaller, because a chunk of it was already handled before the contractor finished his sentence. You've stopped thinking of the fund as an amount and started thinking of it as a discount, a fixed percentage shaved off the top of every disaster life hands you, permanently, for the rest of your life, for as long as you keep it topped up. You are 50. Devin calls, not for money this time, just to talk, and somewhere in the conversation he mentions he finally paid off the card in full last year, for the first time in 2 decades, and there's real pride in his voice, and it's earned. It took him 20 years to do what took you 4 months at 23. He asks, almost as an afterthought, if you ever had one of those, an emergency fund, back when you were young. You say yes. He goes quiet for a second, the kind of quiet that isn't awkward, just calculating, and then he says he wishes someone had told him it mattered before it mattered, back when $1,000 would have been an inconvenience to save instead of a fantasy to imagine. You don't have a good answer for that. Nobody ever explained it to you either. You just didn't want to write no on a form. You are 55. The fund is $6,000 now, larger than it's ever been, not because you decided to grow it on purpose, but because your income grew and the habit never asked you to reconsider it. It has covered across 3 decades, a dog surgery, half a furnace, a third of a roof, and 6 calm days during a layoff scare that turned out to be nothing. It has never once made you rich. That was never its job.